What is up, New York Giants fans, Big Blue Nation? It's Robin Donald. We are back. This is Nerding Out Sports, and it has been a busy week. The New York Giants had their draft, came and went. We'll get into that. And of course, the big news that just dropped yesterday, Sexy Dexy himself is back for 4 more years. The man just got paid. So we're going to start off with that before we get into the meat of that draft class, because that's going to take up a lot of this show. Overall thoughts, though, about the contract. Are you happy with it? Do you think it was too much? Was it a team-friendly deal? What are your thoughts about Sexy Dexy getting that contract?
I think it's a great contract. I think it's probably a steal if you look at it that way. I think it were 22.5
Right.
is less per year than what Simmons is being paid, for instance. So Dexter Lawrence, I think it's very team friendly. It's $60 million guaranteed over 4 years. I think it's a steal of a deal, really. And Joe Shane once again pulls out another masterstroke from Joe Shane.
Yeah, I mean, I can't find any reason to be angry about this. He was our best defensive player last year by far. Nobody came close. The guy was a one-man wrecking machine, and you saw how much of a difference it made when he was on the field compared to when he wasn't on the field. And I saw a tweet earlier that basically was saying sometimes when new GMs come in, they like to kind of have their fingerprints all over the roster. It's like, okay, well, I didn't draft this guy, so I'm going to be okay with letting him walk. And it was applauding Joe Shane for not doing that, saying, hey, even though I didn't draft you, you're not my guy, so to speak. You're still really damn good, and I'm going to extend you because you're going to make this team better. So I love that Joe Shane did that with Dexter Lawrence. He did that already with Daniel Jones. We're going to do it with Andrew Thomas. There's no doubt in my mind. And hopefully Saquon's the next to get extended as soon as possible. But I just love that we're not seeing – because remember when Gettleman did that? Like, yo, I didn't draft you, so I'm just going to let you walk. I don't care. And
Yeah.
Joe Shane is saying, you're too important for us to let this go another year and possibly have a holdout or something goes wrong where we lose you and we get nothing. Let's get this done. Joe Shane has been hitting home run after home run.
Yes.
So I love what I'm seeing, and I'm so glad that he's here. And it's just been such a breath of fresh air over the past year or so that he's been in charge of this thing, just to see how this organization has done a complete 180 from how it operated to how it's operating right now. So big applause to Joe Shane. But, of course, the biggest applause goes to Dexter Lawrence because the man earned that contract. You're seeing what defensive tackles are getting right now. And you said team friendly. That's a big number, but it's a good number because he's absolutely incredible and worth every penny, in my opinion.
Yes. Now, I actually don't know what that does for our current salary cap, but I assume that it's helped us significantly.
Yeah, I have to go and look at that. I know that Joe Shane mentioned the other day that they have ways of creating cap space, and we know the obvious names like Leonard Williams and Adoree Jackson, but maybe they can restructure some contracts like Lewinsky or maybe Tyrod Taylor, free up a little bit of money. But obviously they're not doing this without having a plan. So something is probably going to come sooner than later, whether it's an extension for Leo or a pay cut. They're going to find money.
Yeah, that has to happen, and Saquon as well.
Right.
Adoree Jackson, that's another thing. Just 1 year left on his deal. Do we go all in on Banks to be the number one corner in 2024?
See, that's something that I've been thinking about because I don't want to get rid of Adoree Jackson, because I feel like as good as I think Banks is going to be, and we're going to get into him soon, we still need – right now he's your number 2, and he's a rookie. Mm-hmm. We have to keep that in mind. He's obviously a rookie. Well, I think he's going to be good. You still need to have that true number 1, and Adoree Jackson proved last year that he can be that lockdown corner because he was shutting dudes down. And when he was on the field, think about the playoff game against Minnesota. We didn't really hear a lot of Justin Jefferson's name. So you need to have that, and I think they can be a really good 1-2 punch for many years to come. And we do got a couple of comments. Too evil to hope. Giants are going 17-0. I don't think so. No. 500, 5 years, 500 million. Let's do it. Well, that'll be a Patrick Mahomes next contract. And Jacob, this might be Shane's most productive 2 weeks on the job. Might be. I don't know, because you think about it, could get even
It's been a
better.
it's been a hell of a good 2 weeks for Joe Shane.
It
Hell
could
of a
get
good
even
2 weeks,
better.
Jacob.
Right. So let's get into this draft, because I don't think I've seen any negative opinions about it. So let's just get overall thoughts out first, and we'll go break it down pick by pick and then give our grades at the end of it. Overall thoughts on the draft. You happy with it? Anything that you would have wanted maybe earlier on or anything like that? Or is it just great, as most people are saying?
Great. Absolutely great. I think it's a much better draft than last year's draft. Now, obviously, last year's draft started off good, but then kind of a little bit of a few reaches here and there, especially in the second, especially in day 2. There was a bit of reaches there. I thought this was excellent in terms of value. It matched up need with value extremely well, extraordinarily well. If you look at it, 3 guys who were mocked to us in the first round, we got in the first 3 rounds. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. It's an absolutely amazing draft from Joe Shane. I can't really critique too much. The only thing I would have done was I would have brought in an edge, but we did bring in an edge as a UDFA. So, and Habachuk Baldonado, who I really like, I would have just drafted him, to be honest. But in general, I thought that we matched up need with value extremely well. They got my number 1 guy, who is my number 1 target for the first round in Deontay Banks. He was my number 1 target. Got him. I think it was the right call going corner first round, in my opinion. I think because the depth in receiver, as we saw Jalen Hyatt drop to the 3rd round, the depth in receiver was more than there was depth at corner. I think after Tyreek Stevenson in the 2nd round, there wasn't really a press man corner that you could really rely on. So that's why I think we had to go first round corner, in my opinion. And I think Banks was my favorite of the remaining guys. I had Banks as my number 2 corner in the draft after Gonzalez.
Wow. So we got your number 1 guy and my number 1 guy with our first 2 picks. I was saying all the way get JMS in round 1. And the fact that we were able to get him in the 2nd and still got our number 1 corner, it's unbelievable in my opinion.
Bro, what was your reaction when JMS dropped to the Giants?
When I saw him slip past the first, I'm like, okay, that's not the most surprising thing I've ever seen, because I'm like, teams are going to draft for need towards the end of the first. And then as the picks kept coming in, I'm like, how come no one's taking this guy? And I was like, this is strange. And then when we got closer to 57, I'm like, is he really going to be there? And when our pick came and he was on the board, and that pick, that the pick is in notification came in like that. Like the Giants are like, are you kidding me? It fell into their lap. And I rewatched, obviously you were on your show with Alex and Luca breaking down the draft, and Angry John. Alex screamed, you screamed, and I think every Giants fan had the exact same reaction. I don't know if we all lost our voice the way Alex did, but that is the elation that I was feeling, because I'm like, this was the guy I was saying I would take at 25. He's there at 57. So we already got our corner, which I was perfectly fine with getting a corner. And now we're getting the guy that I wanted in round 1 in round 2. That is as good as it gets right there. I was ecstatic. I think overall I can't find, maybe the one thing I would maybe slightly complain about is taking a running back. But again, it was the 5th round and we needed some depth there, because we've seen after Breida, we don't really get much out of Gary Brightwell. So getting a guy like Eric Gray, I'm not going to complain about. But I love this draft, and I really can't find a complaint, because you look at what we took. We took a safety. We took a couple of defensive backs in Banks and Hawkins. We get the safety in round 7 and Owens. Got another defensive tackle, so we keep adding to that defensive line. Got a receiver, got our center, and we picked up an extra running back, just another weapon on the offense. We attacked every need except for edge and inside linebacker within our draft picks. And of course, we did make some trades, so we lost a few. But I mean, you look at what we needed and what we were able to get in terms of value. You mentioned Hyatt was a mocked first-round pick to us and to the Chiefs in 31. JMS was probably the most mocked player to the Giants in the draft. If you looked around multiple mock draft and all the websites. And Deonte Banks was also a guy that I thought was going to be off the board before 24. So
me too.
This is as good as it gets, and you're seeing a lot of A+ grades for the Giants. And I tend to agree with like that sentiment. Like you can't go further below an A, in my opinion. Like it was just you attack needs, you got so much value, and those first 3 picks, you're talking about guys that can be mainstays for a very long time.
Well, we did the film breakdown of Schmitz in our previous podcast. Like we both fell in love with this guy. I fell in love with him in the Senior Bowl, in the individual matchups. I thought he just dominated everything. Everything he dominated. He was a man mountain. And I had him as a late first rounder. I thought he'd be a late first rounder. I thought he'd be gone at worst about 35. At worst. I thought very early second, late first. How did we get him where we got him at 57? It's unbelievable to me. You saw the reaction when the pick went through, and you saw the Giants draft room, and everyone hugging each other, and Mara talking to Joe Shane, kind of like, bro, how did you manage to get this guy? How did you manage this? I love John Michael Schmitz. I think he's your center our center for the next 10, 12 years. Easy, lock it down. Like he's going to be a monster. I really do believe it. I think he's fantastic. He's incredible against the run. And obviously I think he needs some work maybe in pass protection, but in general, it's fine. But his run blocking is superb. So Saquon Barkley is going to really benefit. Daniel Jones is going to benefit in many ways, and he's just going to be a solid force, and our interior needed him, man. Our interior is a bit of a question mark. It's now been solidified significantly, and now we've put significant resource now into our offensive line, and now Daniel Jones can feel like we are protecting him. We're doing a much better job of protecting him than we did Eli Manning the latter part of his career. So we've now got a franchise left tackle, a franchise center. We've got Bredesen / Azudu on the left, which I like Bredesen. I'm not sure about Azudu yet, but Azudu's good again, good run blocker as well. And Glowinski, he's only going to be here one more year. I don't like Glowinski, but he's a veteran. Maybe he's going to have a better year this year. And Evan Neal, he should technically be our franchise right tackle. So as long as he improves, he needs to improve a lot. But now that we've got the tools around Daniel Jones, now he should be a lot better. And I think that was a right pick. Incredible pick. Bro, best center in the draft. Probably the second best interior lineman in the draft after Osiris Torrance, in my opinion. And we got them all 57. So absolute A+. You match up someone who is a first round target, late second. A+. A+.
Yeah, it's almost as if they controlled all 32 teams in Madden and just selected everybody so your guys can fall to you. I mean, I still can't believe it. I still can't believe that he fell that far. And Osiris Torrance also fell. I thought he would have been a first-round pick early second. So you saw 2 really good linemen slip, and I was questioning everything. And then when we got him, I was like, I'm going to stop questioning anything, because then it happened again in the 3rd round. I really like Jalen Hyatt. And when we traded up and we had Hyatt, Tillman, and I think the middle – why is his name escaping me? The middle linebacker, Trenton Simpson, was also there on the board.
Crazy.
Like, we can get one of those 3 guys right here in the 3rd, and we took Hyatt, and I was ecstatic about it. So I'm like, these first 3 rounds, it didn't matter to me really what we did the final few picks. Like those first 3 rounds were just so good that I'm like, I can't get mad about what we do in round 5, 6, and 7 because our first 3 picks are absolute slam dunks. Obviously, every draft pick, we don't know how they're going to pan out, but if you're going based off of how they performed in college and just going by scouting, the Giants had an absolutely incredible haul of picks in the first 3 rounds, and just fantastic stuff. Really is.
When
fantastic.
you get 3 first-round graded players in your draft in the first 3 rounds, like you win that draft, you're one automatically, in my opinion. So I agree with you. Although, I mean, if I was to be extra critical, I wouldn't have minded keeping an extra 5th-round pick in this draft because it was such a long drop after we traded up for Hyatt. It was a huge long drop, and there was so many really good names that I really liked that went and such a deep draft. So it wasn't really a top heavy draft. It was a really deep draft. Like you could legitimately get guys that can help your ball club in the 5th, 6th round.
Yeah.
But I agree though, in general though, when you get 3 first round graded players, it's an awesome draft. Absolutely awesome. So let's get into Hyatt.
Oh, we'll start out. You want to go pick by pick, or you just want to start off with Jalen Hyatt himself?
Let's pick by pick. Let's do it.
All right. So obviously, round 1, pick 24, the Giants moved up a pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We gave up, what was it, a 5th and a 7th to get that move up that one extra spot.
I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that. When you need to trade up to get your guy, you go and do it. You saw Wink Martindale's reaction. He needed that guy. He wanted that guy. We got him for him. It was the right move.
Right. And that guy, Deonte Banks, the cornerback out of Maryland, your dude, your number 1 pick, your number 1 guy. I mean, I'm sure you probably wanted to jump through the roof in excitement when he was there. I saw your reaction, and everyone that was watching the Big Blue in the Bronx channel saw your reaction, and it's justified. The Giants absolutely desperately needed a cornerback 2 alongside Adoree Jackson. Deonte Banks, he's going to press up right on you. We need that man-to-man corner. We need that guy that's going to bang you at the line because we've seen a lot of soft zone, and that's kind of what Fabian Moreau was. And we've seen Darnay Holmes give it a shot. We don't know what Cordell Flott's going to be at the NFL level. Hopefully, if he could be a little bit better this year. But they needed that legit number 2 that can be a number 1 corner in a year or two alongside Adoree Jackson. And Banks is bringing that energy, man. Every time he speaks, he just seems like he wants to get out there and play. I forget the exact question, but his interview, they were like, what are you most excited about to be in New York? And he goes, I'm here to play football. I'm like, I love it. He just wants to play. He wants to get out there and prove himself. And you saw it last year when the Jets got Sauce Gardner, how important even a rookie can be at that position. I'm not saying he's going to be that good, but my God, did we need a player like Deonte Banks on this defense?
Yeah, I love Banks. He's so fast, and I think that's really important. If you're going to work in Martindale's system, I think you need recovery speed. You need straight up speed that can match up with the fastest receivers. And it's we're in a division where there's a lot of speedy receivers that we got to match up with. Look at all the Eagles guys. You look at CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys. Like you name it. So you need to have a really good press man corner that can match up with them. And then you look at also the Washington Commanders. They've got McLaurin, an excellent receiver in his own right. They've got great receivers in this division, so we need to match up with them. I think I preferred him to Joey Porter because he's much faster.
Right.
And I think that he will eventually be a better scheme fit. And I didn't love Porter as much as a lot of people did. I know the Talking Giants guys really love Porter, but I wasn't that keen on him. I thought he looked really handsy and a little slow. And I thought that Banks, just his tape just kind of stood out to me a little bit more exciting. And I think there's a lot of room to grow with him. He had one of the best combines in the draft for a defensive back. He just blew everybody away with his speed and his 40 time, and it was just. I like a lot of those skills that he also has as a press man, so I think it'll work. He's also really good in the slot as well, like in zone. I think he's really good, so he can play inside, he can play outside, but I think he's going to be primarily an excellent press man, and he suits Wink Martindale right down to a T. Now it's going to take time because it's going to be a big jump from college to the NFL, and corner is one of those positions where often it doesn't automatically click. Like it'll take some time, but I think he's got all the tools, he's got the speed, he's got the intangibles that he's going to be a really good fit. And also, I really loved what the Giants' approach was. Get the guys that your coaches want. I love that. I love that about Joe Shane. You know what I mean? He's working in unison with his coaches. That they had a first round grade on Banks. They obviously had a first round grade on Addison, and then when Addison was off the board, I think that they only had Banks graded in the first round in terms of corners and receivers, so they went ahead and got him. So I think it was the right move. There was a lot of competition for that pick as well, from what I understand. I understand that the Bills wanted to trade up, so the Giants did the right thing. They, in my opinion, they 100% did the right thing. Make sure you get your guy, and they did. So I love that selection.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs were another team that was trying to move up to 24 as well, because apparently, I think Jordan Rondon had the report that the Chiefs wanted Banks as well, and they were trying to move up. So giving up a 5th and a 7th to me is no big deal.
Small potato.
Yeah, just a lot of people like, you gave up those to move up one pick. If a team like the Chiefs were to jump you and you see your guy go one pick ahead of you, you're gonna be kicking yourself. So I think Joe Shane and company did the right thing. Go up, get your guy at a position of need, and you get a very. So
you're telling me two of the best organizations in football, the Bills and the Chiefs, wanted up at 24. Well, it tells its own story right there. You know what I mean? And the Chiefs wanted Banks. Pretty good sign that we chose the right guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we already touched on it a little bit earlier, but the very next round, we made another really good pick as John Michael Schmitz, the center out of Minnesota, fell to us.
Ridiculous steal. Ridiculous steal.
Might be the steal of the draft. Is it the steal of the draft to you, or were there others?
Yes, I think so. I really do. I can't believe he dropped. There was actually another couple of ones though. There was that other center that we loved from Ohio State that went the 5th.
Yeah, Whippler, right? I was shocked to see him fall that far.
I don't understand. There must be a medical issue. That there's no way he dropped to the 5th round. He was like I had him after Tittman, and he was probably the third best center in the draft.
Yeah, I thought even if a team were to take him in round 3 and just move him to guard, I was thinking maybe was he there in the 5th when we were picking? I'm like, why don't we take him and move him to guard?
Yes, that was something I was thinking about too, to be honest.
But
one of those extra 5th round picks would have been handy.
Yeah, but obviously the 5th round pick went to get pick 24, and then when we traded up in the 3rd round, we gave up a 4 to move up. What was it, 18 picks, I think, or something like 16 picks to move up in the 3rd.
Big jump.
So big jump. But John Michael Schmitz, obviously, he's a first-round talent, best center in the draft, in my opinion, your opinion as well, and a lot of other people felt the same way. I could not believe, I already said it, how far he fell. And now we have, like you said, our starting left tackle. We got our franchise center. We got our hopefully franchise right tackle. I still think a lot of this offensive line's potential success is going to bank on the improvement of Evan Neal, because if he's better this year, and it's hard for him not to be, if he has that improvement the way that Andrew Thomas improved in year 2, you're going to have 3. The most important positions on an offensive line are the tackles and the center, right?
Yeah.
And if those things are solidified with youth, Andrew Thomas is going to get extended. You're still going to have 4 more years of Evan Neal, and you're going to have 3 or 4 more years in total of John Michael Schmitz. That's great. And You mentioned how they just completely neglected the offensive line in the latter end of Eli Manning's career and the beginning of Daniel Jones's career,
Yeah,
except for the Andrew Thomas pick. They
Yeah.
didn't really put any emphasis on the line. And Will Hernandez in the second round of, well, no, it was 2018, so never mind. Now you're seeing it. They said, we got to get you a right tackle. They did it last year. We need a center. We let Gates walk. We let Feliciano walk, which isn't a big deal, but a center fell to us, and they took the center. You saw how happy the offensive coaches were. Kafka loved it. Dable loved it. This is a Dable kind of guy. He's just going to go beat you up. And John Michael Schmitz is another one. He just seems excited to be here. All these guys just seem so happy to want to be here. Obviously, they're going to the NFL, but he's going to start day one. There's no question about it. He's your day one starter.
Sure. For sure. I think we've got 3 legitimate day one starters in this draft. And in my opinion, if you get 1, maybe 2 in a draft, you're happy. You get 3, unbelievable job.
Yeah, so John Michael Schmitz, A+ pick once again. And then we go round 3. The Giants, we moved up to go to pick 73, gave up a 4th round pick, and we get Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. I know there were some mixed feelings about this pick because a lot of people will tell you Jalen Hyatt's just a speed guy. He just runs straight. He's just known for getting by the defense. But isn't that what we need? Because look at what we had last year. Darius Slayton, he's fast, but he's not a guy that's going to blow by you and get separation, right? Isaiah Hodgins is a possession receiver that's going to get you those tough catches along the sideline. Amani Toomer-esque, not known for having a lot of speed. We did add Paris Campbell, but he's not going to be Tyreek Hill blow-by type of receiver. He's another weapon. You add Jalen Hyatt to this offense, and when we get Wan'Dale Robinson back, a lot of people seem to forget that we still have Darren Waller now. Like, we have so much variety on this offense. I think Hyatt, a guy that even if he's just running a slant and just takes it to the house, that worked so many times with Odell Beckham when he was here. It's just these kind of things can't go overlooked. Speed kills in the NFL. It absolutely does. And Jalen Hyatt just has that ability. And it's not like he had just a couple of touchdowns and you look at his highlights and obviously he's just running streaks. But look how often he's getting by the defense. That can't go overlooked. He's like 6-7 yards of separation between him and the corner, and it's happening in a blink of an eye. That is so important to have, especially in today's NFL, and I think it's going to add such another dynamic to this offense, and that is a weapon because Daniel Jones' deep throw, his deep ball ability hasn't really been used because we haven't had that kind of receiver outside of Darius Slayton who is kind of 50-50 when it comes to the jump ball. You never really know if he's going to bring it down or not. Jalen Hyatt catches these things. You know, he had 15 touchdowns last year, right? He won the forgot the name of the award, but the best receiver in college football. He won that award last year. So,
I mean, it says it all.
He's got to be doing something.
Yeah. So my first reaction when it first went down was like, "Oh, I'm not sure," because I'd previously watched a video with Steve Smith Sr. and he broke down some of the issues that he has with Hyatt. Namely, the fact that he doesn't have any experience against press man coverage. He doesn't have any experience, like 60 snaps in his entire entire college career. So there isn't a lot of experience there. It looks like he kind of struggled in that regard. Plus, I guess the other negative is the fact that offensive scheme in Tennessee is a joke. Like, it's just basically run straight. Like, it's just a vertical just offense just run straight. Not too much route running and things like that, right? So obviously my initial reaction was like, oh, I'm not sure, right? But then I thought about it, and then I went back to the tape the next day after the draft and watched, and I was blown away. And now I realized, you know what? This is actually a great draft pickup. Great selection, in my opinion. I just needed to watch some more tape and stuff. And I'm not overly worried necessarily about the fact that obviously he wasn't asked to run particularly difficult routes, because some of the individual drills, he did actually run decent routes. Like, he has a nice stutter step. And what I also noticed is the fact that as you say, man, a corner, the opposite defensive back, right, has 10 yards on him, right? He's in position to make a play. But Hyatt is so fast, within a click of a finger, he's 10 yards ahead of that defense back. He's gone. Like, he's got Tyreek Hill, Waddle, straight up speed, top end speed. He's going to take the top off of defense, no problem. And as you say, man, that's Daniel Jones's forte. That's apart from his ability to run. For me, it's the deep ball, his deep ball accuracy. But he just didn't have anybody to throw to, apart from Slayton, and Slayton dropped everything. So now we've got a guy who's got really good hands, and that's another thing. He's got excellent hands. Like, he doesn't drop balls much. So you're looking at someone who is incredibly productive at 1,500 yards receiving.
Yeah.
And great hands.
Yeah,
I think that's really underrated. So I actually think that was the right call. Our offense really badly needed some speed, and he's the fastest receiver in the draft, apart from Tank Dell, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, you think about the speed aspect, right? Because to me, I know he's a one-trick pony is what people want to say about him. A lot of scouting reports are going to say that, but that's what we needed. We needed that because we have a lot of receivers, and we touched on this when we talked about the free agent class, that are kind of similar in their skill sets. They're not really known for, even with the addition of Campbell, they're not really known for being able to just take the top off the defense, like you said. Just when Daniel Jones throws the ball and you're like, how did he get so open? Remember when Eli would do that with Odell, and even in the days of Hakeem Nicks and Victor Cruz, how did he get so open? And Nicks and Cruz weren't necessarily the fastest guys in the world, but they had that speed to it where they got by you. It's like, how did they do it? Even Mario Manningham. But we haven't had that with our receivers in a very long time. Once Odell was gone, we haven't had a receiver that would just be wide open like that. And you're just thinking, how did that happen? And how many times did you see it when Tyreek Hill was with the Chiefs, when he did it last year with the Dolphins? You see the Eagles get that kind of production from a guy like Devontae Smith. It's like, how is he so open? So it doesn't matter if he's just running a streak and he's open and he catches it and he ends up in the end zone. It's like, do you care how he got there? No. So I see a lot of people throwing out the term route tree. Like, I don't know why a lot of people, just seems like recently they've learned what a route tree is, or they just finally learned the term route tree. And now they go, he doesn't have a route tree. He doesn't have a route tree. I don't care, because if he's going to get you that streak touchdown, even if he has 2 catches in the game and they go for 30, 25 yards each, we had the least amount of explosive plays in football last year. And it's been that way for a very long time. He adds that ability, along with the fact that we now have Darren Waller. We still have Saquon Barkley. We added Paris Campbell. It's going to open things up for Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton one-on-ones. And we're going to get Wan'Dale back. There's so many options, and it brings so much variety to this offense for Mike Kafka. So I think the pick for Hyatt was never an issue for me. When I saw we traded up and I saw the pick was Hyatt, I was so happy. I'm like, this is what we needed. And I would have been fine with Cedric Tillman. Don't get me wrong. I like Cedric Tillman a lot as well. But I was like, we needed a Jalen Hyatt on this offense, and we have needed it for so long. And the fact that we got him in round 3, you're talking about another day 1 starter right there, like you said, steal. And it was well worth the extra 4th-round pick to go get him.
I'm not even convinced that he can't run routes either, because, as you say, as I said earlier, I watched some of his individual drills, and I believe there's one clip where he was working out, and Cowboys coach was kind of giving him some shit, and the dude was running really good routes. So I think he can do it. I just think it was just because of the offense. I think it was because of the scheme that he wasn't asked to, because it was such a ridiculous scheme. That's the only remaining question is how is that going to translate to the NFL? Because that scheme is just, there's not really a comparison in the NFL with that kind of vertical scheme where it's just running straight routes and stuff. But I guess that's my only question, how it's going to transfer. But if you look at the skill set, you've got elite speed, got size. He's got size. I like that too, because again, we needed a receiver with size and elite size and really good hands. Again, that's the trifecta. And how my initial reaction was like, oh, I quite like Josh Downs and things like that. And, I really like Tank Dell, etc. Like there was a lot of other receivers I really liked, but then, I thought about, was like, right, what is it that I'm looking for in a receiver? What are your main assets that you like in a receiver? I like speed, I like good hands, and I like moxie. I like confidence. I think those are the three most important things for a receiver that I was going to draft. And he's got all three. He's got confidence in his ability. He's got great hands. And he's got elite speed. So I think he's got all the intangibles that he's going to be a very successful guy. And I think he's your wide receiver one now.
I mean, you think about it, you can't really put anyone else on the depth chart ahead of him because Hodgins, as good as he was last year, he's not a receiver one. Slayton isn't a receiver one. He's a good complementary guy, maybe a number two at best, but he's not a number one. Hyatt's going to start day one. He's not going to be in on certain packages. He's going to be out there as far as I'm concerned now, unless something changes with the depth chart. Who knows how they're going to use all these receivers. We still have Sterling Shepard, who's on the comeback trail. Same with Wan'Dale Robinson. But he should be on the top of your depth chart going into training camp and into preseason. Yeah. He should be at the top of it. And I'm thinking about what it's going to look like when he's on the field the same time as Paris Campbell and Wan'Dale and Hodgins and then Darren Waller. It's just like there's so much variety now, and there's so many ways that we can attack you. We can't forget who's in the backfield.
Look how quickly Joe Schoen has rebuilt the receiver room and the tight end room. This is just the second draft, right? He's got Bellinger, he's got Waller, right? Bellinger was a very solid selection. He's one of the better picks that we actually had last year. Outside of Thibodeau, I think he was our second most productive guy outside Thibodeau, in my opinion, in the draft. So you got Bellinger, who's going to be a solid number two tight end. Number one tight end, Waller, who's elite matchup, mismatch all over the field. He's as good as a lot of guys' number one receivers, right? So you got that. Very good value for both. Then you look at our wide receiver room. You got Hyatt, who we got in the third round, right? He's going to be your number one. You got on the other side, you've got Paris Campbell, who only cost us a couple million free agency, who had 700 yards receiving last year, a couple touchdowns. He was actually the only guy that stood out to me in the final game against the Colts last year. And the game that I went to, I thought he looked really good. So we got him at a bargain. And so he'll be the other outside guy. You got Slayton and you've got Hodgins. That's four legit receivers there. And you've got Wan'Dale Robinson, who, hey, man, he's someone who they have a lot of hope in. So, that's five good names right there. And that's not counting anybody else that we maybe consider after the draft, maybe in post-June cuts or whatever like that, or somebody from the practice squad. So we've got five legitimately good receivers there. You've got Colin Johnson, who's due back at some point. I don't know what his health status is, but like he could be your sixth. So we've rebuilt the room. Oh, and I've not even mentioned Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard come back from injury. That is amazing how he's managed to rebuild all that by spending very little money. Like Paris Campbell didn't cost anything. Hyatt's not going to cost much. He's a third round pick. And Darius Slayton, fairly reasonable contract. I mean, I wouldn't have signed him, but I understand that they did. And Shepard didn't cost much either. It's veteran minimum. So, wow. Like, he's rebuilt the room at very little cost. Like, Joe Schoen is a master, man. He really is.
Yeah, and another thing is a lot of these guys were 1 year deals. Slayton's on a 2 year. I think Hodgins is an unrestricted free agent next year. Campbell's obviously a 1 year deal. So going into next year, you kind of only have like three guys. That's Hyatt, Robinson, and Slayton that would be technically under contract. Now, I'd like to think that Hodgins would come back if he has another similar season to last year. But I'm thinking about it now, like, Paris Campbell is another speed threat as well. Like he's
No, he's
not a
super,
slow
super
dude.
fast, man. He was in the 99th percentile coming out of college. Incredibly fast.
What didn't he run like a fourth? Was it a 4.4 at the
Yeah,
combine or something?
crazy speed.
Yeah, so that's another speed threat, and like we mentioned, speed kills.
I think he was
And
one of
now,
the fastest guy to come out of the draft that year.
what was
It's
it,
just injuries is
2019?
the only problem with him, man, because
Yeah.
he's productive when healthy.
Yes, I mean, and we're going to base everything off of assuming this team is going to be healthy going into the season. Now, we don't know what's going to happen between now and then. It's still a long time, but if healthy, this is the best group of weapons that the Giants have had in a very long time. This is better than what we even had when we had Odell on the team. Because
Yeah, because there's more
2016
depth.
was,
Because there's
yeah,
much more depth.
a
It
lot
was
more
just
depth.
the Odell show that year. I mean, if you're looking at depth at both receiver at tight end that we haven't really had, including running back that we haven't really had since our Super Bowl run.
Yeah, you think, what was it, 2011, we had Nix, Cruz, Manningham. We had
Mm-hmm.
Bear Pasco and Jake Ballard at tight end. And, of
Yeah.
course, we had the running backs, which up until the last few weeks, we had the worst running attack in football, but they picked it up, Jacobs and Bradshaw. And then 2007, Jacobs, Bradshaw, Derek Ward. We had Plaxico, of course, Amani Toomer, Kevin Boss towards the tail end of the season because of the injury to Shockey, Steve Smith as a rookie. This is by far the best group of just overall group that we've had since those years. So you're absolutely right. And we haven't had it for so long because they tried to get depth. You know, when they let Odell go, they had Shepard, but they brought in Golden Tate. A couple of years ago, we tried Kenny Galladay. Obviously, didn't work out. But even then, we didn't really have, like, it was Galladay, Slayton, Tony was here for that year, but, you know, that worked out terribly. Now you have a group of guys that obviously Joe Shane likes, that people want to be here because Darius Slayton re-signed. I thought he would have got more money because he has very similar numbers to Jacoby Myers, and he signed for significantly less than Jacoby Myers. So
yeah, I mean, they did the right call not going after Myers. I think he's overrated, so I think Slayton's as good as him without a question of a doubt and much cheaper. So yeah, I agree, man. I think that we've done an amazing job, and I also really agree with the way that they handled the situation at receiver. They were like, there isn't a number one receiver in free agency, so let's get value in receiver free agency. We'll find our receiver in the draft, and let's use a tight end as our number one receiver. And I think they did that with Waller. I think that was a smart trade. That trade came out of nowhere. It was an incredible trade. I don't understand how you managed to get Kadarius Toney gone and use that pick selection to go and get me Darren Waller, who is going to be far more productive than Toney ever was and far more committed to football. So just, you know, I mean, this whole podcast is just going to be my tipping my hat to Joe Shane, but like this dude is some freaking genie of a general manager. Let's get into the rest of the draft.
Right. So we have 4 more picks left, and in round 5, because we didn't have a 4th round pick at 172, we took Eric Gray, running back out of Oklahoma, more than likely going to be our number 3 back behind Breida and Saquon. This is the one pick that I was questioning. Like, I don't really know why we're going running back here, but there is still some questions and whether or not we'll extend Saquon. I do think we will, but right now he still hasn't signed that tag. I'm not saying Gray is going to be a number 1, but although there's been some scouting reports out there that will tell you he has number 1 back potential. Now, I think he'd be more suited as a number 2 overall, which is fine, but we saw last year when Saquon had his area, when the part of the season where he just looked slow and he looked like he was tired, we didn't get any production really we had slight production from Breida, but we got virtually nothing from Gary Brightwell. So maybe Eric Gray can be another addition to this running back room that can provide something when we have to take Saquon off the field, because Breida's here for another year. He's been used more in the receiving game anyway, so maybe another true runner behind Saquon is what we did here with Eric Gray. So at the end of the day, was it my first choice in round 5? No. But am I happy with it? Fine. I'm perfectly fine with it. If it adds some more depth to an offense, then that's one thing that we've done all offseason is continue to add weapons at different areas of this offense.
Yeah, I watched this game tape, and shout out again to Bobby Skinner, who does an incredible job with Talking Giants. He breaks down a lot of film, and really helps. So I watched the tape, and while I don't like the fact he doesn't really have the speed that you want, really, in my opinion, but what he does have is he's got really good moves. He makes the first guy miss every single time. He's very shifty. He's got excellent use of his lower half. Like his legs are always moving, which is really important. He's got a low center of gravity, which is very important. That leads you to think that there is like 3 down potential there. The fact that when he's hit, he keeps his feet moving and he's able to grind out a couple of yards. When he's hit, he moves forward, right? He falls forward. So he always gains a couple of yards. He's one of those guys that he's not overly fast. He's not overly physical, but yet he will consistently grind out 3 or 4 yards at a time. And that's kind of what you're looking for. As I say, he's got a lot of really good moves. And you know what he's also got? Vision.
Yeah.
He's got good vision. Good. He knows exactly where he's going to go with the football. I like that too. He's got ankle breaking moves, which I love, right? And it's just very frustrating because if he had that next bit of speed, then he would have been the steal of the draft. Like he's just missing speed in my opinion because he's got the technique that you want. And I guess it was really frustrating because I'd watched some of the plays where he would make the first guy miss. He would have an ankle breaking move, and then he sees the gap that the center or the guard has opened up for him, and he's just not able to charge right through that gap because he doesn't have that speed. And so he's not a home run hitter in my opinion, but is he someone that could be a very valuable, like, backup to Saquon Barkley? Yeah, and as you said right there, man, like Saquon needed 3 or 4 weeks off. Really, legitimately needed 3 or 4 weeks off because we really abused the tread on his tires for the first half of the year, and we really needed a quality backup to him. Breida a little bit, but he's not an every down back. So I think this guy is able to take a little bit more of a hit. He's physical. He's a fairly physical guy. So I think he's well built. So I think he's going to be okay. Was he my favorite running back in the draft? No, I really liked other guys. I really liked Deuce Vaughn, even though he's not as physical as this guy Gray. I think Vaughn looks good, and I loved Israel Abanikanda, who the Jets got. I was blown away by him. I love. He had mouth-watering game tape, in my opinion, and I think he would have been an absolute steal had the Giants had the extra picks to go and draft him. I think he would have been great. But Gray, listen, he's kind of unheralded, and they like what they see, and you got to trust that Joe Shane and Brian Dable like what they see. And listen, yeah, I think it's a good selection, actually. At first, I was like, what? Why did we not go with the more heralded names? Like, there's a ton of running backs that have a lot of stock. But you know what? Gray, the more you watch his tape, you're like, I see why they're doing this. I see it. He could be a sleeper pick. He really could be. I give it a solid B+. B+.
Yeah, maybe like one of those like 2-3 yard kind of scat backs in a way, because he's not going to get you those 15-20 yard runs. No. That's what Saquon's going to do. Yeah. Saquon's role is he's going to get you some big runs, but you want him to hit the home run. That's obviously what Saquon's though. He's the home run hitting running back, but you need someone that can take him off the field for a little bit, because we mentioned it already.
I think the great selection, man, is an indicator that they are going to extend Saquon Barkley. Like, if they used one of their picks on someone who is rated as a 3-down back, then possibly Saquon would have been under threat. But I think that by selecting Gray, I think their plan all along is for Saquon to be their 3-down back and then Gray to be his backup.
Right. I think, overall, Not a bad pick at all. My first choice wouldn't have been running back there, but once you look more into the player and you see
Yeah,
what he adds on the depth chart, solid pick. And when you get to like round 5 and all that, you kind of take some chances on players. You reach a little bit. You take a chance
definitely.
on a guy that might be an experiment, so to speak. And I think this is going to be a fine addition because, again, you still need more than one running back in the NFL. Especially
Definitely.
nowadays. You need a guy that can spell your starter. And Eric Gray, because Breida's probably not going to be here next year. And assuming we do re-sign Saquon, who's his backup? Well, we got the answer right now. If Eric Gray can provide you those maybe not even 10 carries a game, but something like 6 carries a game, 7 carries a game for now, just to spell Saquon, that's perfectly
He might
fine.
even be a starter because, as you say, I don't think Saquon's the guy that with the tread that is on his tires and the injuries history, that I don't think he's the guy that's going to play 17 games. So you want someone that can maybe spell him for 2 or 3 games at worst. And I think he's capable of doing that, and as sharing with Breida. And Breida, he was the one that struggled for maybe 2/3 of the year, and then the last third of the year he really took off. And then his speed was really good, and he had some really good games in the playoffs and against the Colts and things like that. So I actually quite like the fact that we brought him back.
Yeah. So I think we got a really good running back group now as well,
Yeah.
and hopefully Saquon does get that extension. But moving on with the draft, pick 209 in round 6 from the Kansas City Chiefs, that Kadarius Toney trade, the gift that keeps on giving. We got Trey Hawkins out of Old Dominion. I actually really, really like this pick. I think he's severely underrated. He's fast. He's another press guy. And if you look, he didn't go to the combine, but a lot of his measurements would have been top 5 at the combine. His He ran a 4.39, which would have been top 10.
Okay.
He did 17 reps in the bench press, 6.74 in the 3-cone drill. Both would have been second at the combine.
Oh.
And he had a 37.5-inch vertical and a 4.22 in the 20-yard shuttle. He's a physical guy, and he's a press guy. The one thing that he doesn't really do is intercept the ball, which the Giants didn't do at all last year. So he kind of fits right in like a glove.
Yeah, again, he was one of those guys where I needed to look at some of the tape with him, and what I noticed is how physical he is. I love his physicality, actually. He's a big hitter. Decent anticipation as well. I like his anticipation. He anticipates plays really well. He matches up fairly well with guys, and he's incredibly physical. He's a big hitter. He's not afraid to land a badass hit on you, and he's very comfortable as press man. He doesn't get beaten press man at all, which is a really good sign. So he's an ideal fit for Wink Martindale's system. And I think, in my opinion, there's room for him to become a safety. I could see him being a second safety with his physicality, with the fact he's really good against the run. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be a second safety. He's not a guy that can play center field. He's not he's not a free safety in my opinion, but I think he could play the other safety, and I like how hard he hits, and I think he's really good against the run. So I wouldn't be surprised if he might develop into that. I think he'll develop into an average corner, but he could develop into a starting safety, possibly. We will wait and see. That's just my opinion. We'll wait and see with that. But at worst, you've got someone who's going to add depth to the corner room, and I think he provides that. I think he's a scheme fit. And as I say, Joe Schoen wants to bring in guys who his coaches love, right? And what we didn't mention about the Hyatt was the fact that Dable traded for him. It was Dable that wanted to get that trade done. He was That's like, right. Can I go get this guy? I need him. Yeah, go get him, man.
Didn't Dable make the call too? Wasn't it? Dable made the call.
That's what you want. You want simpatico. That's what you want. And that's what I love about this draft. Simpatico. This is gonna be a great draft. I'm sure of it. But yeah, Hawkins, man, physical dude, very physical, good against a run. We'll wait and see. I think you're right. I think it's a sleeper pick.
And he's 6'3" too, so that fits very well at the NFL level. He's got good size and good speed, so maybe he could translate more to a safety at the NFL level, kind of like Julian Love did. He came in as a
Mhm.
corner, but fit a lot better at safety. We'll have to wait and see because right now our safeties are McKinney and McCain. We signed him in the offseason. So
Yeah,
we could always add to that safety room. And
I
they're
don't
really,
love our safety situation.
yeah, so we could probably maybe he does. Now we did draft we'll get to him in a moment, but I really do like the Hawkins pick. I think that because right now we have Jackson, we have Banks. We don't really know who's going to be that third guy.
I think
right?
flaw. I think it's flawed.
I think Flock can be him, but you still also you need a fourth one because I don't trust Darnay Holmes at all. We don't know what Aaron Robinson's going to be because he's hurt last year. When's he going to come back? We tried out a couple other players, and so you can definitely use some more depth there. So maybe he does stay at cornerback for now, but maybe in another year or so they could maybe make that
We also
change.
got the guy from free agency. His name escapes me, but didn't he play for the Bengals?
We signed that another safety?
No, a corner. Remember the corner that we signed in free agency?
Oh, no, from the Lions, Amani or Warrior. Yeah.
Warrior, that's it.
So, I mean, there's some depth there and guys that you're hoping can kind of click. But we're talking about a 6th-round pick here, so obviously there's it's a waiting game, and you're hoping he can develop into something. But I actually really like your idea of potentially moving him to safety because outside of McKinney, who's also going to be due for an extension, will he get that or not? We don't know. You're going to need some safeties at some point. So maybe with his speed and his size, he can translate to the safety position a lot better at the NFL level. So that's
I really think that our corner situation was so lacking prior to this draft that it was smart to go with 2.
Yeah, for sure. And he was listed as a defensive back. He wasn't specific to cornerback or safety.
Exactly.
So.
I wonder whether he might be transitioned.
We'll have to wait. I mean, I trust Wink to use him as much as possible and as well as possible because Wink was able to find. So I still can't believe he got the production from Moreau as he did last year. Yeah. But let's move on to the 7th round. We had a couple of picks there. First was the defensive tackle out of Oregon, Jordan Riley. Just another depth addition to this defensive line. We just did sign Ashawn Robinson on top of the obviously extension to Dexter Lawrence from yesterday. We still have Leonard Williams out there. Don't really know where he's going to fit because we still have DJ Davidson from last year. Do you think that this is just a guy that's going to be a camp body potentially, practice squad dude? Don't really see much of a fit for him on the roster.
Dude, I didn't even like his tape. I thought he looked he's incredibly big, but like he doesn't show the kind of athleticism that you need, in my opinion. He's incredibly unathletic. He's just a giant body, but he's not athletic enough to penetrate the line and go after the quarterback. He's not going to be a pass rush threat. Right. So I guess good against the run, but I think he's a camp body, man. I think he's going to end up in the practice squad. I didn't really see much there. I think he's got long arms and he's able to adjust. So like when he's being handled by the guard, he's able to adjust and he's able to make the tackle for the running back that went through the line. I saw that a couple times. But in general, he's just a guy that maybe does his job, but I'm really surprised the Giants selected him. Why didn't they just draft Habachik Baldonado, who I think is much better? He had much more explosive tape. Or you could have just the wide receiver that, or even the quarterback that DeVito. Like I would have just drafted one of those guys rather than Riley. I didn't see anything with Riley that I was impressed with.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he made the roster. I don't even know if he makes the practice squad. I hope, I don't ever want to see a player get drafted and then not get used at all, but I just don't see with everyone we already have in-house, I don't see where he fits.
Yeah.
Again, we did sign Robinson. We already have a few guys along the defensive front, but
we had a ton of defensive linemen, but we didn't have any edge. So
yeah, I'm surprised.
That was weird for me.
I thought we would have drafted an edge there, at least in round 6 or 7. I'm kind of surprised we didn't go edge at this point, but I don't see much from Jordan Riley. And we did just re-sign O'Shane Jimenez, so hopefully he can stay healthy. And and you have him and Jihad Ward as your backups, which isn't the worst depth, but could always get better.
No, great. It isn't great because as much as I love Jihad Ward he's not really a pass rusher per se.
Yeah.
Jimenez was actually, but he really tailed off after a really strong first 3 or 4 weeks. Like he was non-existent after that. I'm surprised he was brought back, but I mean, he'll be very, very cheap, very, very cheap signing. So I think he's better than Ellerson Smith. So I'm still holding out hope for the UDFA that we brought in, Habachuk Baldonado, Pittsburgh. I think he's got some really explosive reps in his tape that I loved. So I'm really hoping that this guy blows us away in camp.
Hopefully, because that again, the one thing that puzzles me is we did not take a single edge in this draft, but we did finish it off at 254 with Javaris Owens, a safety out of Houston. I think special teams gunner if he makes this roster, and we probably will make the roster because we need the safeties. But we have McKinney, we got McCain, potentially Hawkins moving over there as well. We still have Dane Belton, as I forgot to mention earlier. So the one thing that a lot of people will tell you about Owens is he's fast and he can hit hard, but nothing really that tells you like he's going to be a good safety at the NFL level. I'm seeing more of a special teams gunner type, someone that's just going to make that big hit, which is fine because you're drafting him in the 7th round. And our special teams can always use the help because that's a position, that's a unit that is either really good or really bad, and we haven't had an in between from our special teams. So I can use as many gunners as possible.
Well, actually, I think he's got ball hawk tendencies though. He wants to make a play on the ball a lot. And he's got the speed that you like, and it's really just certain things that he needs to clean up a little bit. Like he's a little bit hesitant at times, and he misses the opportunity. He doesn't have the hands that you want to make interceptions, but he's always in and around the ball, and that's what you like. So, dude could be competition in the safety room. I actually wouldn't just write him off as a special teams guy just yet. I actually quite liked some of the things that I saw. The only guy that in the draft that I didn't like was Riley. I just didn't see any need for him. We got a million interior defensive linemen. But I actually quite liked Owens. I think he's got the straight up speed that you want. He's a big hitter, and he wants to make a big play on the ball. Maybe refine his technique a little bit, and he could be someone who could be productive in a small capacity at some point this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
Do you think maybe he can be a safety that drops into the box? Because he does have that, he can hit. We know he can hit, so maybe he's more of a run.
I think he. I think he's pretty good against the run too. There's a couple of traits there that we can build on. I actually quite like this selection. Not bad at all.
So that is actually all the picks right there. So
and then there's Bryce Ford Wheaton, the wide receiver, and then there's Habachuk Baldonado, and then there's DeVito, the quarterback. I think two really good selections. And DeVito, I think he's just going to be a body that could possibly be a practice squad guy, or maybe even your third quarterback. But keep an eye on Baldonado and Bryce Ford Wheaton, the wide receiver. Insane speed. He could be someone who could be really, really worth watching. Have you seen anything of him?
No, I have not. But I got to do more research and more scouting on these undrafted free agents because we only brought in a few, right? Like, usually we bring in a bunch. We only brought in a couple, but the fact that we brought in another speedster at receiver tells me what the Giants are searching for more than anything at the skill position because they know that we lack speed so much. And
he's really fast, speedy guy. So I keep an eye on him, man. Let's see if we can get some of the if I got some of his measurements for you, because he was someone who's a sneaky steal in my opinion. Like I actually thought that he easily would have been drafted. So 6'4", 220 pounds. It's good. big athleticism score of 88, and he ran a 4.38 at the 40. Yeah, he ran a 4.3, 41-inch vertical jump. So that's a big jump on him. Super speed, 10-yard split, 1.5 seconds. So the NFL.com liked his next gen stats, had him ranked as good. And his athleticism score, they had him, the 2023 combine, they had him ranked first.
Really?
Yes, in terms of athleticism score.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Don't sleep on that guy. That's someone who I would have just drafted instead of Riley.
Apparently, dog believes so as well.
I think that's the mailman. Thanks, Riley. Good dog. Good dog. That's a good boy. That's okay. I'm okay. It's just the mailman. Everything's fine.
Riley agrees with you. He agrees with you about it. I'm looking up Baldonado now, and I like his measure. He had a 5.8 on a prospect grade from NFL.com. Next Gen Stats had him at a 63, which is average. They see him as a backup, which is exactly what we need, backup edge rushers and a special team guy. So, I mean, again, we've seen in the past guys come out for undrafted free agents and just make a name for themselves. I'm not saying he's going to become a star, but what the Giants need is someone that can back up Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau. Right now, we know that's Jahad Ward and O'Shane Zimenez, but I also like that he's from Italy. That's nice. So Baldonado, if he can make this team, because we've seen Ellerson Smith doesn't really offer you much. We've had Ryder, Anderson, different kind of guys try to take that role in past years. So we'll see what he can do. He's going to have a chance to shine in camp and, of course, preseason. Maybe he makes the team.
Well, remember, he's come from a really good school in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And he's had a very productive college career. Let's get some of his stats for you. So I do recommend watching some of his YouTube film, because you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Like, he's a big hitter, and he's a big dude, 6'5", 260. And let's get some of his sack numbers. He had 9 sacks in 2021, 2 sacks in 2022, and forced fumble recovery. He had a better year in 2021. 2021, he had a big year. 41 tackles, 9 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. 2022, he had 2 sacks. So, like, he's someone to keep an eye out on. I wonder why he had a better year in 21 than 22. Not sure about that. But the tape that I watched, I think you'd be surprised. I think he looks like a steal as a UDFA.
Ran a 4.7, so he's, for a guy his size, it's not bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
Again,
for 6'5", dude, just 260 pounds. Defensive end, yeah, it's decent.
I'll take it. We'll see how that all pans out. So let's round this out with grades, shall we? What is your overall grade on the New York Giants 2023 draft class?
Give me a grade A, please.
Mark you down for an A. I'm right there with you. I can't give it an A+ because obviously we don't know how it's going to work out. But judging by those first 3 rounds, and I love the value we were able to get towards the end as well, specifically with guys like Gray and Hawkins. We added position of need. We added a heck of a lot of talent. We mentioned it already, first-round talent with the first 3 picks. And we got some day one starters and a couple of guys that could be starters or just right there on the depth chart as backups in Gray and Hawkins. So we'll see what is to happen with guys like Riley and Owens and Baldonado as well as an undrafted free agent. But I mean, I can't go any lower than that. It was such a great draft.
No, it's absolute steal. Great value. Matched up need with value very, very well. And then you get Dexter Lawrence. This has been a really good week for Joe Shane and the New York Football Giants.
And it could get better because I got a feeling Saquon's next. They got Dexter out of the way. We heard Joe Shane talk yesterday. He wants Saquon back. They're expected to reconvene on the talks soon. They did say already once the draft is over with, then they're going to get back with Saquon. It makes all the sense in the world to extend him.
Yeah,
you don't want to lose.
I'm really excited. I can't wait to have Saquon tied down because he's a big part of what we do, and he's a big locker room guy, and he was one of our leaders last year. But the fact that we got Dexter Lawrence for considering the year he had, where he was probably the best interior alignment in football, apart from Quinn Williams and maybe Jones. You get just $22 million a year. Absolute steal, in my opinion. Especially
again, that price will always go up each year.
Yeah,
contracts go up like crazy. So
totally.
Again, this whole we broke it down and we tipped our cap as many times as possible to the GM, but we got to do it once more because it was just so deserved. Hell of a draft from Joe Shane, from everybody, because this entire front office, like you said, everyone's just working as a unit. The fact that Dable made the call, said, I want Jalen Hyatt. I'm going to make the call. I'm going to he made the offer. He said, I'll give you the 4th to move up to this pick. That's
and by the way, to jump up 18 spots, I think it would normally cost a lot more than just a 4th round pick.
Right.
That's a big jump. Like normally you'd have to maybe dip into 2024. You'd maybe need to dip into another pick. Like normally to jump up where we jumped up, you need to pay more than just a 4th. I think we did extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And then, I know it's not fair, but you look at also the fact that we used our 3rd round pick from the Chiefs to add Darren Waller. I mean, just the draft class is the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah,
and what the Bills were known for, and obviously Joe Shane's a big part of that, is UDFAs. Like they were able to develop UDFAs as well. So it's, I wouldn't be surprised considering how productive Tamon Fox was last year and limited sample size. We could get something from this crop as well. So you know what? I think it's just an excellent job all around from the scouts, Joe Shane, Dable, Wink Martindale. Everybody came together, I think, and then they got the guys that they needed to get. That's going to really push us forward. And I thought free agency was okay. I thought the draft was fantastic. So, let's not forget we also added Bobby Okereke, and free agency was probably for me the best linebacker that we could have gone. And so our defense is going to be ready to rock and roll. Our offense looks ready to rock and roll. We tied down the guys we need to tie down. We just need to tie down Saquon. And this offseason has been great for the Giants.
Yeah, and we got the schedule release coming on Thursday, I believe, right?
Yeah, hopefully it's the Jets in week 1. That would be a lot of fun. We gotta figure out a way to go to that game, I think.
There's some rumblings that's going to be the Monday Night Football game, and also something about Black Friday, Giants versus Eagles, which terrifies me because we know playing the Eagles on any day where they wear those black jerseys, they kill us. So
I hate to say it, but the Eagles had a great draft. Fantastic draft. My God, disgusting.
I think it was El Jefe on Twitter, and he said, if Howie Roseman calls you, don't pick up the phone.
Exactly.
You're going to get fleeced.
Team
stop. Can we stop? Because I was looking at them like they're getting great players in the draft, and then of course they go ahead and trade for
DeAndre Swift.
They get DeAndre Swift. I'm like, can they stop, please?
Disgusting. They got him for like a 7th round pick. Just stop. You got Jalen Carter, probably the best talent in the draft. All they need to do is use like a pick from 2024, a late round pick in 2024, just to get him. Like, just stop. Just stop. Like, everything falls in their lap. It's disgusting.
But you got to give the organization credit because they were ran pretty like chaotically for a little bit, and then within like a year they just flipped it And
now they're just they're now the example of what to aspire to. Unbelievable.
So, quick tip, I guess, to them, but screw the Eagles. I hope that everything they did.
Yeah, what's the tip? No caps to that.
Screw the Eagles. I hope everything you did doesn't work out. I hope everyone's a bust. I'm not going to wish injury on anybody, but I hope they're a bust. I'm not looking forward to playing them, but hopefully we just put up a better fight this year. That's all I can ask for. But we'll have to see what the schedule looks like. That's going to be fun if we do get Jets-Giants week 1. I mean, I can't really think of another game. You got Rodgers coming to New York. The Jets fans are excited. That trade finally happened after a month of waiting.
It's gonna be a really fun NFL year. New York teams are gonna be pretty good this year.
It's gonna be
weird
fun
draft from the Jets, though. I have to say, I was an unimpressive draft from the Jets. Weird one.
I mean, they had such a good one last year. It's almost impossible to replicate it, but it was. I mean, judging by Luca and John's reaction.
Oh my God, they lost the plug to Will McDonald.
That first round pick. That was interesting. But
that was such a weird selection, though. But anyway.
Yeah, let's not talk about the Jets too much. We'll have to see if we'll talk about them when we play them this year. That's really it. But that is going to wrap it up for us here at Nerding Out Sports. Feels good to be back talking some more Giants football, and we're going to get that. Back. It is good to be back, and it is good to talk positively, and that's pretty much what we've been doing since Joe Shane and company took over. It's been a very positive vibes around this organization, and it can only get better because it could very well get better in the next coming days, maybe even hours if Saquon gets hit with that extension. So thank you to everyone who popped in during the stream, and if you're checking this out on the on-demand, once it goes live on the channel, be sure to hit that like button, share it out, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Check us out on Twitter. Our handles are down in the description, as well as Alex and Luca. Check out their channel, Big Blue in the Bronx. I know Donald and Luca, I think Sunday afternoon is game 3 of the
Saturday, I believe, Saturday night.
So Saturday night, Knicks and Heat. The NBA playoff schedule is so strange to have so many
days off. Very weird.
They'll be calling game 3 of Knicks Heat. Series is tied 1-1, so a lot of excitement there. Be sure to check that out and subscribe to Alex and the boys if you have not already. And once again, thank you all so much for watching here at Nerding Out Sports, and we'll see you all again next time. Let's go, G-Men.
Go Big Blue.
Peace out.